Hello, welcome back if you're new here. My name is Autumn, and today we have the start of a very special project. In my town, we do this thing called Art Squared every year. It's run by our kind of community artist group. Basically, what you do is, as an artist, you can register, and you are given 8 panels to paint, and then when it's time, you'll bring them in and they'll sell them for, I think it's $36 a piece. Part of that goes to the community art program to help continue funding it, and then part of it can go to the artist if you choose to take it. This is my first time doing it. It's actually my first time hearing about it as well, but apparently it's been going on for quite a while. I decided this year, in line with me just trying to get out in the community more and put my art out there, that I would participate as well. And today was the day to go pick up our panels. There they are, 8 6x6 wooden panels. I can't believe I'm gonna have to do all this painting. I am not a huge painter to begin with. I tend to do a lot more digital art, as you probably know if you've been here at all. But I do a little bit of acrylic painting, and so I think that's definitely the medium I'm going to go with. Now, I picked these up today, which it is May 3rd. But the art show isn't until September, so I've got plenty of time to work on this. First step really is deciding what I want to do though. Do I want there to be like a theme? Do I want there to be a message with all of them? Or just have them be individual pieces? I'll be honest, one of the first things I thought about was just adorable animals in whimsical clothing. You know those portraits? I'll throw up some examples of just animals in fancy dress. I think that that could be really fun. Kind of ties in my whimsical, fantastical aesthetic. But I'm also thinking about the last art show I was doing and the fact that my art didn't feel like it had enough of a message. And so I'm wondering if I should maybe do something more in that direction and try to be more vulnerable and have art that has more of a message and impact behind it. So I'm gonna settle down, maybe get some brainstorming going, maybe chat with some friends and family and see what they think, but I'll see you when it's time to start painting. All right, I've got some updates for you. It is currently May 13th, and I've been thinking more about what I want to draw, and I actually came up with a really good idea. I was going through this sticker collection, and they had so many designs that were really kind of quirky and old-fashioned, kind of Alice in Wonderland vibes, and I just was so inspired by that, and I love that kind of absurdist vintage illustration style. And so I went onto Pinterest and made this whole board with all these different images, kind of in the style that I liked. And I was like, I know I want to do illustrations and scenes from this kind of magical, whimsical, weird world. I just didn't know what I wanted them to really be scenes of. And I had this thought that maybe they could be connected like a story. So with my little brother, actually, we sat down and we just talked through all these ideas and really fleshed out this really cute story that I am so excited to illustrate. And like, nobody else will know necessarily what the story is except for me and my little brother, but I'm still so thrilled knowing that there is kind of this narrative behind it. So we made a little plan, and I'm not going to share too much right now because you'll see as we go along, but I'm just so happy with it. It also have kind of a little main character, so I was doing some illustrations, some little sketches to see what she would look like, and I do really love the result of that. So I think she's cute and kind of weird, which is the goal. I also got some gesso and just prepped all of the panels, so now they're all covered, ready to go. But before I get painting, I think I actually want to do a little bit more planning, maybe just on my iPad, kind of loosely sketch out what the ideas are and get a bit of a color composition down. That way I know what I'm doing a little bit more going forward. Once all of the boards are labeled and all of the digital sketches were done, it was time to transfer those sketches over onto the actual boards themselves. So So I spent a few hours one evening just loosely sketching out the compositions, making sure I kind of had the pieces in place. I wasn't too particular about how it looked at this stage, especially because I knew I was going to go over it with paint and would lose a lot of those details anyway, so it really was just trying to roughly figure out where everything was going to go. After that, it felt like every spare moment I had was spent painting on these things. I would go through, erase some of those pencil lines just to make it really light, and get to work. I actually got into a nice little routine of coming home from work every day, doing my little chores and activities, and then just sitting down and painting for hours every evening. I'd put on a show or an audiobook and just get to work and paint for hours and hours. It was honestly kind of therapeutic, I'm not gonna lie. I will admit, filming while I'm doing my artwork, whether that's digitally drawing or physically painting in this situation, it's not my favorite thing. I don't know, something about it just feels really stilted and like I am really aware of myself in a way that you don't really want when you're trying to be creative. I mean, creativity is being open to making mistakes, and it's being okay with kind of the mess that happens along the way. I mean, all art has an ugly stage, and you're not really supposed to care about that. But when I'm on camera, I definitely feel myself a lot more aware of like, oh, this looks really weird right now. I hope nobody's thinking that. Even if I'm not being watched yet, it's just the camera there. There's also the kind of awkwardness of working around this film setup. I do have a new camera stand, which honestly helps a lot. It holds my phone in place a lot better than my old one used to, so I don't have to worry about it jiggling around too much or completely falling out. But, you know, it's still kind of in the way, and it's just something that you're aware of. It's another part to the process. I have to make sure that I have enough storage on there, or that the light isn't glaring off the paint. For that reason, I honestly don't have a ton of footage of me painting these guys. If I happened to be working at my desk and it was really convenient, then I would definitely film. But otherwise, if I was in a different room or even painting from my bed, I wasn't going to try and set it up there. So I just wanted to focus on actually getting it done rather than getting it done on camera. I guess now would also be a great time to tell you kind of the story I had in mind. So it's pretty cheesy, but the idea we were coming up with was the idea of this little girl who is a potion bottle. Like, she is a potion bottle. She works in a potion shop, and she wants to find the recipe for love. And I know that's super cheesy and kind of Disney feeling, but she goes on this journey and she finds all of these different ingredients and pieces that you need for love. You know, first she goes to the area of like puppy love and those first sparks and the butterflies in the stomach, and then there's like vulnerability, which is kind of scary, but you know, she faces that fear and challenges the dragon. And you know, there's comfort, there's friendship, there's time spent together. And then, of course, the final panel is her with all of these different creatures that feature in each of the other panels, because at the end of the day, you know, love is the friends we made along the way. So it's super cheesy, but I thought it was cute, and honestly kind of loved having this little story that literally nobody else will know about when they're looking at these paintings. I don't paint super often. As I mentioned before, I do mostly digital art. So it's always kind of cool to test out this new art medium, or newer, and really push yourself in that way. I know I was feeling my creativity in a way I hadn't in a while, just messing around with something new, seeing how it layers, seeing the way colors look against each other, being okay with it being kind of a messy textured look instead of kind of the crisp, clean lines I can get with digital. I found it really therapeutic almost and really satisfying. I mean, of course, I still wanted them to look good, especially because I was hoping that they would all sell, but it was just not my typical thing, so there was only so much that I could rely upon, and a lot of it was just experimenting and having fun. Finally, after weeks and weeks of work, I had all 8 pieces done, and I am so happy with how they turned out. Honestly, I really love them. And just like that, they are all done. It has been several months now since we started this project. We went through the sketches and figured out what we were doing, and now I've painted every single one. Put a nice coat of sealant on there so it's nice and shiny and safe and protected. I'll bring them in this Friday, drop them off, and then the next week it'll be showtime. I think they're pretty cute. I think they each have something that I really like about them, and definitely each have things I don't care for, but we'll focus on the positives. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting process. I don't do a lot of painting, so this has been quite new, and it's been kind of nice to come home and just like work on painting and settle in. I don't really expect them to sell. I'm trying to keep my expectations really low and just assume I'll come home with all of them. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe somebody will like the weird little creatures and will appreciate the style and will want to keep it in their own home. I might buy a couple pieces myself, not these obviously, but of other people's work. I'm excited to see what everybody else has done. I've heard that it's the largest enrollment, the most artists they've ever had. So I'm definitely curious to see just like what we're talking about, like how many pieces people have done and what different styles there are. I'll definitely show you some clips from the show if I can, and give you an update afterwards of how many we sold. Friday night, I went to the art show. I got there around 5:30. They opened at 5, and there was already a decent crowd in there. Honestly, it was a lot busier and a lot more crowded than I would have expected. I guess that's the thing about living in a small town, you know, when there's something to do, everybody shows up. I got in and I got signed in and got my little name tag as an artist. I got to go into the room and wander around, look at all of the different pieces. I think they said over 140 artists contributed this year in some capacity. There were a lot of pieces in there. I think about 4 shelves front and back just full of these little art panels. What impressed me most, honestly, was the variety. You know, I figured they gave us these boards. Most people would probably just paint, and that was true, but I was still super impressed. Like, there were sculptures sculpted onto there. There were like wire sculptures. There was crochet work. There were photographs. There was watercolor, acrylic, oil. There was collage work. It was just so much variety that I wouldn't have expected necessarily. You could really see each artist's individual hand in each piece, and that was really neat. I had some friends and family stop by just to support me, so I pointed out my artwork and even saw some people just from the community that I knew and got to interact with different local artists. I got to reconnect, show each other our work, talk about our process, and that was a really cool time. From 5 to 7, they just had a preview period, so everybody could walk around and figure out which ones they wanted to buy. And then right at 7 o'clock, they released us and let us grab whichever ones we wanted and check out and take them with us. There was one piece I really had my eye on. At 6:50, I made sure to position myself in front of it, but this one lady kind of wiggled in closer, and at 7, she managed to grab the one I wanted. So I didn't actually end up buying any. There were a couple that kind of caught my eye, but nothing that I really felt like I needed to own other than that one that I missed out on. In a good turn, however, actually, all of mine ended up being bought, which was really, really cool. It's always validating when you put a lot of work and effort into something and other people around you end up appreciating it as much as you do. It's just really neat to see. It's a great feeling. It makes it feel worth all of that effort that you put in. Overall, it was a really wonderful experience, very different than I expected, and they had like music playing, they had drinks and food. It was super chill, very cozy, and again, just really neat to see all of these people in the community come together to support art and local artists. I definitely want to participate again next year. I already have ideas about what I kind of want to do, especially based on like what I saw there this year and what I think would really stand out. I've got some things in the works already, so I'm excited for next year's. With that, I think that kind of covers the whole experience. I want to give a big thank you to Art Walla for hosting this event and for allowing me to participate. And thank you to you guys for coming along and watching this journey of creation and sharing. I hope I will see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.